time for Wednesday's hour number 2 on hashtag Daily K with your host, Peter Bint. Korean dramas, movies, and even lyrics. Why is the world paying attention to Korean stories?
From classics to modern masterpieces, time to dig deep into the charms of Korean literature.
On Check It Out
with Paul.
Hooray, hooray, the 1st of May.
Okay, I think you say you want me here to rhyme today, but if I rhyme, is it a crime to start too soon? You want the moon.
I want more than the moon. I want Percival in the studio.
There's no Percival.
He's busy.
He's dead.
I would like to know how many Percivals live in Korea. Do you think
zero?
Do you think it is?
I think
really
it's a big
zero?
Fat zero. And I'm sorry to any Percival who may be listening around the world, but I don't think there are any of you here in Korea. It's not that common a name anymore.
Please let me know so I can ram it down Paul's throat. If you're living in Korea, Percival, it would perhaps make my day, nay, my year. How are you doing, Paul? It is May. Is it May Day? Today is May Day.
It's the 1st of May.
That's May Day.
It's International Labour Day.
Okay, that's fabulous. Is this not the day where
Workers unite?
People dance around the maypole and whatnot?
Yes.
Okay, so have you ever done any Morris dancing or whatnot, Paul?
I've danced around the maypole. I think
really?
every child in my school had to dance around the maypole.
Oh, yeah, we did have that event in the field at our school.
Yeah, we didn't burn a wicker man, though.
No.
We didn't go that far.
Not when you're in primary school. That would have been good fun. Are you looking forward to May, or are you very busy, as you have been for the past, 18 months, it seems?
I am at the busiest. I'm at my peak busy right now.
You've got the theatre stuff out the way, so what's keeping you busy in May? Oh, that rhymed. That was good. Sorry. I mean,
Sorry,
no,
were you looking for an answer?
Why should I apologise? Yes, it was a question.
Okay. Well, I'm going to Cuba at the end of this month.
Oh, so at the end of May?
Yeah, the end of May.
Just that's a leisure holiday?
No, it's work. It's theatre work.
Oh, my God.
Going to a festival.
That's theatre work. My bottom is that theatre work. What?
No, my bottom is my Midsummer Night's Dream work that I did. Yeah, but I'm writing scripts for publishers for educational videos.
Wow.
I'm doing lots of different things. I have fingers in many pies.
Cuba, I want to talk about that. So how long are you going for, and how much of it is real, like, hard labour?
I'm going for a week and a bit, and I will be following a strict program. I have to see every single show. I have to attend every single workshop,
really?
every single networking event. This is not some jolly. This is serious business, Peter. This is art.
You're looking very happy about the fact you're going to Cuba. Do you know they established recently diplomatic ties?
I do
with
know.
Korea?
I do know. I talked about it on air, just not here.
Is that a link to the fact that you're going as well?
No, it's a very happy coincidence that this is the year that Korea and Cuba have finally established diplomatic relations. I think it's a well-timed thing for my trip. But
don't ruin that, okay?
No.
Don't break off those relations once they see you come in.
And I'm really interested because there are some Korean Cubans or
Yes.
Cuban Koreans, and I'm excited to see if I can meet them and maybe speak Korean with them.
I hope so. I heard Korean clubs, social clubs dedicated to Hallyu and whatnot, are quite the boom at the moment in Cuba, and there have been Korean dramas that have been really popular out there. We'll send you on a little recce, and you come back in June and let us know all about it.
You pay me extra.
Don't talk about it on another show, another station already. You see, you've got him coughing. He's nervous. He knows where
On
his
another show, actually interviewed a
bread
Cuban
is
singer
buttered. We don't want
who lives in Korea.
Well,
who sings very well.
That's not what we're.
She could be a
interested in.
K-pop star in the future.
We're interested in the other way round.
Her name's
okay?
Jadis Camilla. She's very good. Look her up.
And she lives here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
She's
nice.
a singer. She released a song recently.
I wonder how many Cubans live in Korea. There's another. More than Percivals, right?
Many more than Percivals. There are a few, but it's very difficult because getting the visa up until now has been tricky, but there are a few.
Yeah, because they were one of the last, if not the last, I think, countries in Latin America to not have diplomatic relations with
That's right.
Korea, obviously due to their political systems and leanings. We got Benny on board. Kushi's here as well. Greetings to you. Have we got a good book to introduce them to today?
I hope so, because, well, May is not just about, dancing around the maypole.
No.
May is all about families.
It is 가정의 달, we call it in Korea, don't we? Yes.
And so we've got a couple of books this month that are related directly to some of the holidays. And one holiday that's coming up this Sunday, which means we actually get Monday off as well, is Children's Day. May 5th is a very, very special day.
5/5. It is a public holiday. I love that we celebrate Children's Day. In the UK, we don't have Children's Day, right?
Well, we shouldn't, because all the British children are nasty.
They are spoiled and they pick their noses way too often. But still, I do love this, that we have a day dedicated to kids. And, you take them to the theme park or the toy shop or something like that. Although my son did point out to me he's rather sad this year because it's his last official Children's Day.
Is that it?
Yeah, in elementary school, once you're out of that, apparently you're strictly, technically speaking, not supposed to celebrate this day.
I think Bang Jong-hwan would have something to say about that.
That's not the spirit of this day, is it?
No, it's not. You know who Bang Jong-hwan is?
I was surprised that my kids knew who he was.
Of course your kids know, because he is a hero to children everywhere.
Yeah, but he's like around 100 years ago, so I was really surprised that they'd, especially my daughter.
102 years. We're going to get specific about the induction of a day for children.
Oh, that's what it came
of
about.
a list of rights for children.
Wow, yeah, and he did some kids magazines back in the day.
He wrote
well.
poems, he wrote songs, he wrote plays, he adapted stories, he wrote his own stories. I spent last week, I was lucky enough to see 7 productions, all influenced by his work.
Wow, that is unbelievable. That's who we've got to thank for Children's Day and lots of other things. I think maybe even the word 어린이 might have come from
he did so much. He was such an advocate for children in such a difficult time. This was during Japanese occupation, and yet he was focused on Korea's youth.
Oh, that's fabulous. Anything to do with Children's Day specifically in today's book, then?
Well, it's a story that children will appreciate, I hope.
Okay.
It's a fairy tale.
I hope so. It's not one of those Grimm Brother ones where it's going to get gory, is it?
No, there's no blood in this one.
Okay.
Because I've featured fairy tales on the show before for Children's Day, and I think it's a nice thing to do because I love fairy tales.
Yes.
And I found one. I found this collection called Korean Fairy Tales. They're adapted by William Elliot Griffis. They're available for free online, so anyone can read them. And I found a fairy tale I'd never read before.
Oh.
Never heard before, a Korean fairy tale.
Wow.
It's called The Mirror That Made Trouble. I don't know who originally wrote it, because this is the problem with fairy tales. They were told from person to person, grandpa to grandson or granddaughter.
Okay.
So we don't know who the original author was, maybe in several different people. But we do know that William Elliot Griffis adapted it about 100 years ago. And it's a little more modern than a lot of fairy tales, I think. And I hope our listeners will enjoy it.
Despite being adapted more than 100 years ago, so you must imagine that the fairy tale itself is much older than that as well. So we've got nothing to say about the author. It's from somebody somewhere down the line.
But this is, you look at the Brothers Grimm, for example, they didn't write the fairy tales. They collected them, and then they wrote them down.
Then they got all the credit.
Well, yes, because they were doing very good jobs as anthropologists.
Okay.
But all these people that we think as the originators of fairy tales, a lot of them mostly have been collectors of word-of-mouth tales.
All right. So what do we know about William Elliot Griffis? If that's 100 years ago or in the 1800s, I'm assuming not too much.
No, we know quite a bit, because he was a very interesting man. He was born in Philadelphia in the US in 1843.
Yeah.
He was an American missionary. But he had an interesting life.
Okay.
You think mostly missionaries go to school, go to seminary, go on a mission.
Sure.
No. He actually fought in the American Civil War as a young man. So
Amazing.
He started off as a soldier. He then went to Rutgers University. While he was there, he happened to tutor a young samurai from Japan.
Okay.
And that meant after graduation, he went to Japan to sort of set up schools there and to teach there. And he was there for several years.
That's amazing.
Gaining interest in not just Japan, but also in Korea. He then returned to the US in 1874. He went to a seminary, to Union Theological Seminary there, then started ministering. And for about 30 years or so, he was ministering in the US at several different churches.
Okay.
Retired in 1903 and then just started writing and lecturing.
Wow.
And so he wrote often about Japan and also Korea. He wrote 5 books about Korea, 2 fairy tale collections, 2 about Korean culture and history,
Wow.
and 1 about a very important missionary to Korea, Henry G. Appenzeller, who was one of the first missionaries in Korea, but also one of the people who translated the New Testament into Korean.
Wow, so we do know a fair bit about the translator.
And because it's 100 years ago, it means the books are public domain, so they're accessible online.
Fabulous. So search this out if you want to read it. William Elliot Griffis, Griffis.
I thought it was a spelling mistake at first, but it's not.
Okay,
It is Griffis.
It does look a little odd, doesn't it? Are we aware of if he spent time in Korea? I'm guessing to have written books about it. Maybe,
yes, and because Japan and Korea are not that far apart,
Sure.
it was possible to get a boat over. And missionaries, I think, all over the world stay connected, especially if they're in neighbouring countries. It's very important to have that network.
Far from home, especially. So the mirror that made trouble, do we need any scene setting?
We don't, because at the very start of the story, he sets the most beautiful scene himself. The city of Seoul lies near the Han River, which flows all the way across Korea from the high mountains to the level sea. To most Korean people, in the old days when no one travelled abroad, Seoul was the centre of the universe. All roads in the kingdom led to this wonderful city, in which there were big shops and stores, and gay streets full of lively people in rich clothing. The gentlemen in their stiffly starched and glistening white clothes walked very proudly with their heads up in the air. When they straddled the little Korean ponies, which are not much bigger than Newfoundland dogs, it seemed as if elephants were trying to ride on donkeys. From morning to night, the avenues were full of traffic and business. All the wonderful things brought by the Arabs from India and by the merchants from Japan and China could be bought in the Korean capital. 1,000 bulls loaded with dry grass and firewood came through the city gates to Seoul every day. They could be seen passing along, but not much besides legs, tail, and horns were visible. At breakfast and supper time, clouds of blue smoke rose up from 10,000 low and often underground chimneys, carrying the heat and fire from the kitchens where good things to eat were cooked. The cartloads of bags of rice, millet, barley, fruits and vegetables, goodies and cookies, jars and crockery seen in the shops would make a mountain. Palaces, pagodas, temples and mansions of the nobles and wealthy people made the place in which the king lived very beautiful, while out beyond the high stone city walls, white or covered with vines. When the sun dipped below the mountains, the gates were shut, and after that no one could enter until morning. At every closing and opening of the gates, the musicians played lively tunes, and the great bell tolled out the time of sunrise and sunset. In the band were drums, fifes, trumpets, and stringed instruments. At night, from inside the house and wine shops, one could hear the sounds of revelry, music, song, dancing and feasting, which often lasted till morning. Out on the great South Mountain, a mighty fire burned, and the flame shot high up in the air. This was the welcome message that all was peaceful throughout the whole kingdom.
Arirang.
Arirang Radio.
I really got transported to Seoul, like back in the 1800s.
It's a brilliant introduction. That's why I wanted to feature it. There's more. It actually went on for another half page.
Oh, wow.
But we don't have time for all of that.
No, but it really makes you feel that Seoul at this moment in time, at least within Korea, was the place to be. It still is the place to be, of course, but...
Hey, people in Busan have got things to say. People in
sorry.
Jeju are complaining.
There's a reason I live in Seoul and work in Seoul, and it's not
You don't
because
live-
I don't like it.
I tell you what, if you were living where you live now 100 years ago, you wouldn't be in Seoul at all.
I'd be quite far away on
You'd
the
be in
wrong
the
side of the
countryside.
river, wouldn't I, as well? But it did sound, I don't know, way more... developed and, I don't know, almost like futuristic at that time compared to what I imagine. Because a lot of the time in the sagoks, the historical dramas, you see Korea depicted as really struggling through the bad seasons and whatnot.
Yeah, but these sagoks, these historical dramas, when are they set? Like 500 years ago?
Probably longer ago than this, right? That's fabulous. So, what is the story about? We have no idea. It's just setting the scene at the moment, right?
So we have Seoul. Seoul is cosmopolitan. Seoul gets all the goodies from all over the world. Korea is finally opening up. It's not the Hermit Kingdom anymore. But the countryside is very, very different.
Aha, so we maybe are going to see that side of things.
Yeah, so it's much more naive, it's rural, it's lacking in all the modern bits and pieces that you could find in Seoul. And so we're taken to a village north of Seoul, which I guess now may well be in North Korea, called Cucumberville.
Oh, what a name.
Yeah, I don't think that's the original Korean name. It's the name that Mr. Griffis chose because it's a place where the cucumbers grow green and flavorful. Korea, for those who don't know, generally speaking, every town, every little region has its product.
Yeah.
The thing that they're famous for, the thing that they're proud of, whether it be apples or onions or cucumbers.
Yes, I've not heard of cucumbers in this day and age. I'll have to do some research into that. There must be a Cucumberville, quote unquote.
Did you know that Korean cucumbers are always very excited?
Why?
Because they always go, "Wee!"
My goodness, that's the word for Korean cucumber. I hate cucumbers, and all the listeners know that, so don't mention it again, please.
All right, don't worry. This is about it for the cucumbers.
Good.
So we meet a miller. His name is Mr. Kim. His wife is Mrs. Cho. They've worked very hard. They've saved their money, and now he's planning a trip to Seoul to see the city.
Nice.
Never been. He's going to get himself some fancy clothes for his wife, some slippers and hairpins for his daughters. And his wife is quite glad he's going. She doesn't need to go with him.
Okay.
No. She's like, bring me back all the good stuff. But also, watch out for the robbers.
Okay.
Those sort of tricksters. And you will not be hanging out with the gisengs. No entertaining girls for you. Okay. No wine shops.
Oh, good.
And he's like, well, you keep the fire warm, okay? You look after our daughters and beware of all the robbers and the tigers and the leopards, and you sound the alarm if you think you're going to be in danger. I don't want to come back with you, I don't know, eaten by a tiger.
They sound like they care about one another.
They do. And actually, Kim's a really smart guy.
Okay.
The thing is, though, like a lot of people when they first come from the country to the city, they turn into a country bumpkin the moment they enter the city walls.
Okay.
And that's where we pick up again. He's gawking at all the glory around him at this brand new experience, the first time seeing Seoul.
And we'll see it from his point of view in our second reading.
For amid so many strange sights and sounds, he was dazed. Like a great gawk, he stood on the main street with his mouth open. As the crowds went by, he wondered where all the people came from and how they all got a living. He found the saying true that there are rude people, even in Seoul, for one fellow shouted at him, asking him whether he intended to swallow the moon. Some of the boys laughed at him, and one said his mouth was like a bird box and something might fly in. Kim looked at many things in the shops, but when he asked how much they cost, he nearly fainted. He was truly scared at the price and walked on. However, he bought some pretty things for his wife and daughters, such as a fan, a roll of silk for a dress, a box of hairpins, some amber beads, and a silver ring, so that when his oldest daughter, who was soon to marry, became a bride, she would have everything ready. While in the silk shop, the clerk who sold him the goods saw that Kim was from the country and thought he would have a little fun. So he told Kim about the fairies and pointed out a shop across the way. There, if he looked at the round thing which the shopman would gladly show him, he would see and feel as he never felt or saw before. At once, Kim went across the street and over to the shop where they made metal things, bright, shining, polished and silvery. There he stood in front of a round thing like the moon. In it was a man's face. It was the face of someone he thought he knew. It was a man about his own age, he fancied, yet he could not tell just who it was or call him by name. But he was sure he had seen the person before. When he turned around suddenly, hoping to surprise a friend or perhaps a neighbour from his hometown, there was nobody near. He looked again. There it was! Had his friend hid himself and then come back? When Kim dodged, he lost sight of the face. But when standing in front of this round thing, there was the same man again in the mirror. For that is what the shining metal was. When Kim laughed, the fellow laughed too. When he made a wry face or grimaces, the other person, whoever he was, did the same. No matter how quickly Kim might turn around to catch him, he was gone.
Wow! What is this magical contraption?
I told you it's a mirror.
Oh.
It's in the text.
Oh, I see. Now I'm linking the dots together.
Yeah, the mirror that made trouble.
I bet I'm quicker than most, though, to catch that fact.
I said the word mirror, Peter.
I was trying to think while that was happening. Of course, if it seems like it's the first time he's seeing a mirror, but surely you would in the olden days maybe see your reflection in water or something like that.
But it's distorted.
Wouldn't be the same, would it?
Yeah. And
okay.
It would be, you would go, okay, yeah, you see reflections in water.
Yeah.
If you think about it, we didn't have stainless steel back in the old days.
No, not at all.
So you wouldn't have a polished metal surface to look at.
And they didn't have much glass in Korea.
We have oiled paper for windows.
Yeah.
So the only chance possibly to see a reflection would be in the ripples in the water, and it wouldn't be so clear, and you go, that's me.
Sure.
But suddenly being confronted with a metal disc, seeing someone in it, it's got to be pretty weird.
That would be mind-bending, right? So, okay, he sees this mirror. Does he buy it?
Oh, yeah, he loves it. He's like, what is this? This has got to be some kind of fairy magic.
Okay.
He's delighted. He's like, okay, I know it's a lot of money. I'm going to get this. This is, the whole family's going to get a kick out of this.
Surely.
And so he does all his shopping. He buys all the things. He comes home laden with boxes of pretty things for his wife and his daughters. And they're all cooing over, oh, look at this hairpin. Oh, look at this slipper. They're having a happy time.
Aww.
He puts the mirror in its case on the table.
Okay.
And he goes off to work.
Okay.
And then the moment of horror arrives.
What's the moment of horror? What happens?
Well, the mother and daughters see the case on the table, open it up, and they look in the mirror, and oh my goodness, he's brought back a ginseng.
Uh-oh. Is that what they think?
Yeah, the daughter looks, it's like, there's some kind of girl in there. He's brought back a dancing girl.
Wow.
They're outraged. Mr. Kim has brought that kind of girl back from Seoul. When Mr. Kim's mother looks, it's like, why have you brought a halloumini with you? We don't have enough even to feed me.
Oh,
how are you going to care for your own mother? So there's wailing. There's gnashing of teeth from these women who were all seeing different things and all misinterpreting them.
Okay.
It gets so loud that Mr. Kim's father, the granddaddy, comes to take a look and he's like, who is this old man? What's he doing here?
Wow.
He slams the case lid down on the mirror. He's very upset, very angry. The whole family is very, very distressed at all these unwanted guests. Yeah, it's brilliant. And so Mr. Kim, he's outside working in the field. He's like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Goes back inside, gets attacked by his wife, who's grabbing him by his top knot, and then drags him to the village judge to explain himself.
Wow.
The thing is, when the judge takes a look in the mirror, he's like, has someone come to take my place?
Oh.
Who's this guy dressed on all this finery?
Goodness.
He looks so pompous.
This is hilarious, but I wonder, would this be likely to happen? I guess if you've never seen it,
Peter,
you have no idea.
Peter, this is a fairy tale. Believe. Because I don't know about you, but I can see this as a cartoon in my head.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely ridiculous. It's the sort of thing that makes you giggle. You know in your heart that realistically someone's going to already work out that it's just a mirror.
But maybe this is saying something deeper as well. Like you see someone who kind of reminds you of you, it makes you react like this. You're going to be jealous. You're going to feel threatened and stuff like that.
Mr. Kim wasn't threatened. He was excited.
Yeah, why is he the only one who's excited? Everyone else is like, oh, is this grandfather or grandma or judge or whatever? Yeah, maybe Mr. Kim knows what's up. We're going to find out what happens in our third and final reading. Siska wondering if there's any mirror, mirror on the wall talk. I don't know if we're going to get quite there.
All this made him almost choke with anger at the idea that another magistrate should come into the village of Cucumberville to take his place. What should he himself do for a salary? If he lost his position, how would he support his old parents and his 25 poor relations? He saw himself as a pauper in his old age. Speechless with rage, there was silence in the courtroom for at least half a minute. Even the women's tongues did not wag. All looked at each other to see what would come next. But the peace lasted no longer than 30 seconds, for the storm broke out again in full force when the jealous wife seized her husband by his topknot to drag him home. She feared that the magistrate was himself so angry and jealous that he might adjourn the court. Just when the hullabaloo was at its height, a messenger rushed into the courtroom to announce that the royal inspector direct from the king was on his travels of observation in the province. Within 5 minutes he would be at the gate of the courthouse. Instantly, the jealous wife let go of her husband's topknot. The magistrate called for order and posted his under-officers in their places according to the etiquette of welcoming the king's agents. Then the magistrate, adjusting his hat and topknot, which had been badly tumbled in his passion, went out to greet his worship, the royal inspector. Salutations over, he waved his hand to his superior to take to the chief seat of honour. As soon as all formalities were over, the high officer inquired into the cause of the troubles and into the merits of the case. The local magistrate put the mirror on a silken cushion and handed both to his highness, the inspector, saying, "Please, your worship, it is this that has turned us all into devils of jealousy. What is it?" Then, this gentleman from the capital, who was every day accustomed to the comforts and conveniences of the great city and the splendour of the palace, explained what a mirror was. He gave them all a mild scolding for their folly and dismissed them, telling them that whenever he or she felt angry or jealous, to go out and pull the tops off 5 turnips, or to drink slowly a cup of rice water before speaking an angry word. Thereupon, the miller's wife fell on her face and begged pardon of her husband. Then all the family, young and old, while walking home, laughed heartily at their mistakes. When a Korean begins to laugh, it is something hard for him to stop, but after half an hour all was quiet again. After that, nearly everyone who could afford it bought a mirror. All the girls in the village, sooner or later, possessed one. They used to look into its face so often to see their own, that the oiled paper carpet fronting the mirror was, in many houses, soon worn out. And so, the mirror makers wondered what had happened in Cucumberville, the village, so long famous only for its cucumbers, but they slapped their thighs for joy and grew rich.
That's the end. Is that the end of the mirror folly?
Of course it is. On for Children's Day, would I leave you hanging?
Just a little short story, this one.
Yes, it's a fairy tale, and I love it.
It makes me chuckle as well. I was a little bit worried there might be some kind of weird twist at the end, and they go too far, maybe punishing Mr.
No,
Kim.
I told you there was no blood, no violence.
It all ends in a laugh. The Royal Inspector is not one of those from other stories that is really wielding power and maybe says, "Off with your heads for being so ignorant."
You've been watching too many saguks, too many
I
historical
have,
dramas.
haven't I? Yes. So, okay, great. That's a lovely little story.
It is. I mean, it's a great moral about not being so jealous and to think before you speak. But also, I think it captures that incredible thing about invention. We take a lot for granted in our interconnected modern world, but
Yeah.
I think you're old enough. You're over 40, aren't you?
Yes, thank you.
We remember when we were kids where there were new things coming out that seemed unbelievable.
Absolutely.
You know, like, I mean, even a smartphone. If you were born before 1990,
Yes.
you don't take smartphones for granted because we had no such things.
Just the mobile phone itself was absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
Even the cordless telephone, which
my goodness,
kids
which used
will
to be
not
a
know.
brick.
They won't know what that is, right? They'll be like, "What do you mean a cordless
Well,
telephone?"
I'll go one further. The push-button phone.
Oh,
When
as
we
opposed
switched
to the
from
dial-up.
rotary,
Right.
from the dial phone to the push button.
Certainly younger than Paul, but I do remember my first phone was the rotary phone.
Yeah.
You'd have to wait ages to dial the next number
But it
as
was
it
fun.
came back. It was fun.
I loved the rotary phone.
I would love them back again.
Yeah, and the other thing I think about that made me think about was the fact that when we were kids, if we wanted to know something,
Yeah.
if something was a mystery to us, like we didn't know what a mirror was,
Yeah.
We couldn't go on the internet and search for it.
No, there was no internet.
No, the only thing you could do is, one, maybe you had a book,
Yeah.
or maybe your parents had a book, or friends, or school, or the library. And that was it. Unless somebody knew around you, you were stuck.
Absolutely. You'd ask parents questions, and if they didn't know, they'd just be like, I have no idea. Then if you did, maybe have an encyclopedia or a collection, you can try and find it in there, right?
And I think people nowadays take it for granted that we have knowledge at our fingertips. And it's a possibility that one day the internet will collapse.
Who knows?
Yeah, I think we're seeing with the rise of bots and AI, people are talking about the dead internet and how maybe it'll just become unusable. Yeah. Searching now on certain popular websites have become very difficult to get the result you want because AI has sprung up all these useless answers.
That's true.
So I think it's a reminder also that curiosities are important. And it's also a very good reminder of how brilliant Korea has been about adapting to change. More so than Europe, I think. Because in Europe, we had the luxury of time. That these inventions, a lot of them coming from Europe, were adopted over the decades, over the centuries. Whereas for Korea as a hermit kingdom, there was a period around that late 1800s where suddenly everything changed.
All of a sudden, 180 degrees. Maybe that is, something that's had an effect on us taking on new technologies and changing at such a rapid pace because we maybe got used to it then.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think we have to be careful. The other thing that it reminds me of is the fact that you, Peter, as somebody almost in their mid-40s, and me in my latter mid-40s, that we're dinosaurs.
We are?
Yeah, I'm sorry to say that the kids born today, they're going to start using technology that is going to mystify us at some point. There will come a point where you will look at whatever device or program or thing that it is, and you will go, what button do I press?
Yeah.
I think you may already be there.
I might be with some things my kids do on their smartphones that I don't understand already.
Yeah, and we have to accept that there's going to come a point where we're going to need help. And it's why the Korean government has spent a lot on digital education and digital literacy for seniors, for senior citizens. And I think it's really, really important. Like, for those who haven't been to Seoul in a while, it's very hard now to find a restaurant that doesn't have touchscreens.
The kiosk, right? Or at least
or at your table. Which is great if you know how to use them, but if you don't read Korean, for example, or you have trouble with Korean, it can be very tricky to navigate.
Yeah, or just with technology in general, if you're an older Korean person, like I don't think my mum could navigate that very easily at all. So you're right, the Korean government has been pretty good producing like even TV shows as well to teach the elderly how to use, and their smartphones as well, how to use that as well.
Yeah, so it's just a reminder that you and I, Peter, maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but maybe in 20 years' time, we may be like Mr. Kim and Mrs. Cho and their family when it comes to a device that we think this has to be magic, when in fact it's just technology we don't know.
We'll just be gawking like him. And I really like that line, do you want to eat the moon or swallow the moon with your mouth wide open?
Yeah.
I can imagine, maybe in 20 years' time going into like an electronics store and having no idea what anything is, right?
Yeah, but I think it also captures that feeling when you visit a new place, a place you've heard all about. Like people coming to Korea for the first time, stepping into Seoul for the first time and going, this is where it all happens.
Yeah, my friends, my mum's friend, who's lived in the UK for, I don't know, like 40 years, maybe more, and her kids are Korean descent, but they're British, basically, because they've lived their whole lives there. They came out for the first time in like 10, 15 years with their own children here. And they were blown away by how advanced Seoul is, because London's a lovely city, but it's not quite changing at the same pace.
No, I mean, I went to No One last week, which is good, and I went there maybe a decade ago.
Oh, wow.
And it is completely transformed.
Yeah, right.
Where suddenly there's a department store and there's a culture theme street and all this thing, and it wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I got out the station, I was like, am I in the right place?
It's like time travel in Korea. It changes so quickly, doesn't it? I don't know if I'm looking forward to being a dinosaur, but as long as I have like people around me who will kindly explain what a mirror is, like that royal inspector, I'll be all right.
You just have to get used to using your tiny arms.
My tiny arms?
If you're a dinosaur.
Paul, thank you as ever. What's your one-line review for this?
A tribute to how fast the world may change around us and how foolish we may be before we realise.
Thank you so much for your reading. What's up next week?
Next week, oh my goodness, next week it's Parents' Day.
Oh.
So in tribute to mothers, we're going to do Mother and Child by Kang Kyung-ae, translated by Sora Kim Russell. It's a classic short story available for free online. So do check it out before check it out.
Lovely stuff. Thanks to you for your wonderful readings and our producer for the wonderful background music.
And thanks to the Literature Translation Institute of Korea for the help with copyright permission. And thank you to William Elliot Griffis for this fantastic adaptation.
We will see you next week.
I'll be back next week with another one. Bye.
You can listen to Check It Out with Paul Matthews on Arirang Radio's #DailyK every Wednesday from 10 a.m. KST.